say Phoenix and Alexandra Haddow.
Thank you so much for coming to my show, guys. Some of you might be here because you've seen me before. Some of you might be here because you read about the show and you thought it sounded good. And some of you might be here because I look like a slag on the poster. So, whatever your reason, thank you so much for coming. Also, there might be some history buffs in the audience that think because this show is called Not My Finest Hour, that there's a Churchill element. Very much not the case. This show is much more, we will shag them on the beaches than fight them, you know? Both valid. No, it's called Not My Finest Hour because I wrote it about something I did that was very wrong, okay? And I wrote this show for two reasons. One of the reasons was that I felt like nobody ever just said sorry anymore, especially publicly, right? Politicians, celebrities, your most annoying friends on Instagram. Okay, nobody is just saying, do you know what? I fucked up. I'm sorry, okay? Celebrities are the worst, aren't they, for this? I feel like celebrity excuses for bad behavior are getting weirder and weirder. My favorite one of recent times was Roseanne, okay? I know. Do we all remember Roseanne? From the 90s sitcom, Roseanne. Okay, good. Now, a couple of years ago, Roseanne tweeted something racist, okay? There was no way around it, it was horrible. And then a few days later, when presumably she realized that this tweet would have financial implications for her, she thought, I better wish you an excuse as to why I've said it. And Roseanne's excuse for tweeting something racist was that her sleeping pills made her do it. Chef's kiss, all right? You know, I mean, not a great advert for the medication itself, is it? Being as she was, of course, awake when she tweeted it, so... Not a great start for her. What I absolutely love, though, about this culture is that no matter how insane the excuse, there will always be fans of that person who defend their behaviour and provide some kind of evidence, right? I was scrolling down Roseanne's tweet, okay, to the replies, and I was half expecting someone to be like, can we all just leave Roseanne alone, please, right? Some medications can cause adverse personality side effects. Like, I had an antihistamine last week and joined the Taliban. Do you know what I mean? Just stay vigilant, okay? I mean, to be honest, looking at some of the oldest and slightly bigoted members of my own family, if any medication was going to cause racism, it would be Gaviscon, wouldn't it? It's like, you're on that every day. What else can't you digest, Susan, right? Absolutely insane. Right, and celebrity notes app apologies. They are one of my favourite things of modern culture. Does anyone else love these? Yeah, okay. Especially when you've been out the night before. You've made an arse out of yourself. You're a bit embarrassed about your behaviour. You wake up, you're a bit hungover. You log onto Instagram and straight away, somebody's done something so bad that they've had to write about it over 3 pages in the Notes app and post it to Instagram, and you're like, I'm fine. You know, you feel great, don't you, after that, okay? My favourite ever celebrity Notes app apology comes from Ja Rule. The references are nothing if not current, guys, right? But Ja Rule was the co-organiser of Fyre Festival recently. Now, give me a cheer if you know Fyre Festival. Okay, yeah. If you don't know it, it was an A-list celebrity festival on a tropical island, and they invited celebrities and influencers and models to all have an amazing time and make all of us horrible muggles at home feel horrible. And then they got there and they were having to fight over basic supplies like food and water. And it was just amazing, wasn't it? One of the best days of my life. Ja Rule was a co-organiser, and he issued his apology, which read word for word, "I am truly sorry, as this is not my fault," which is just an instant 180. Thank you, Ja. Just a side note, my friend thought it was pronounced Ja Rule for quite a long time. Also, like, people that we know, okay? Social media has made us talk and act in such weird ways. There's always women on my social media timeline that are saying things like, "I'm done saying sorry. I'm an unapologetic bitch." And I'm just watching it like, I'm an apologetic bitch. Like, I'm really sorry, okay? There's all this weird kind of therapy speak online now, which means we never have to take accountability for something that we did wrong. And we've all got a friend like this. And if you haven't got one, mine is called Caitlin, okay? And she will post every sort of 6 months, she'll post something like this. The picture will be absolutely no relation to the caption whatsoever, right? It'll be her on a beach in Thailand looking incredible. And the caption will say something like, "Hey guys, sorry I've been a bit quiet on here recently." You've got 212 followers, Caitlin. "Sorry I've been a bit quiet on here recently, but I've been on a journey. I've realised that I need to live my truth. And I need to be more authentically me. I've realised that for this year, I'm just going to be trusting my heart. I've got my crystals. I've done the work. And I'm ready for you guys to just accept me for who I am." And I'm looking at it being like, Caitlin, I know that you shagged your boyfriend's brother at a wedding. Like, either just say nothing or like stop with all this weird pseudo-therapy talk, okay? So I thought, I'll buck the trend and I will write something about, I think, the worst thing that I have ever done, that I am willing to talk about on stage for money. The worst thing that I think I've ever done is about 10 years ago, in my 20s, I had a relationship with a guy who was 16 years older than me. Yeah, I know. And the reason that that was bad was because if his wife had found out, fucking hell, would I have been in trouble? I had an affair, that's what I'm trying to say. I had an affair. And as you can probably tell from that previous sentence, I was the single one. And if you're gonna have an affair, my advice would be to be the single one, okay? That's my insider tip from me to you, right? Especially if I'm doing a show about it, okay? Because if I was the married one and I'd done a whole show about having an affair, you'd be like, oh my God, what a cow. But if I pitch the next 45 minutes right, you might come out of here like, wasn't she brave? You know, so that's what we're going for. This happened about 10 years ago. I was working for a magazine at the time. That was my old job. And I met him at a party that the magazine was throwing. And magazines could throw parties back in those days because they had this mad thing called money. By the way, for any Gen Z in the room, a magazine is sort of like a website that you print off once a month, okay? And I had fancied this guy for a long time, from afar. I knew who he was because he was sort of famous, okay? He was a sports presenter, which is quite objectively a boring reason to be famous, okay? It was Gary Lineker. No, I'm joking, it wasn't Gary Lineker. Oh, I wish it was Gary Lineker. I wouldn't be here, do you know what I mean? I did that once and a woman in the front row just went, no! I was like, calm down, Janet, it's fine. The leader of the free world is not wrong and you're fine. No, it wasn't Gary Lineker. I can't tell you who it was for obvious reasons, but to quell your curiosity, What I want you to do is I want you to picture a sports presenter in your minds right now. Don't say it out loud, but just, you all got him? Yeah? Whoever you're thinking of, he was less famous than that, okay? Right, but I still thought is extremely cool, because he was kind of a generation above me, right? And they were sort of the last generation to be able to afford stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like anything, okay? So I was I was really, really impressed by that. And I didn't mean for it to become a thing, okay? But I also did hook up with him that night at the party. And the reason that me and all my friends that I worked with thought it would be okay was because we assumed that him and his wife had an open relationship or some kind of open arrangement. And we assumed that because it wasn't so much that he had a wandering eye. It was more like, oh my God, is your eye okay? It keeps fucking other women. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of... So naturally, I thought, that's probably what it is. I'm not going to ask, but that's probably what it is, okay? And I was a picture editor at this magazine. I always used to have to put pictures of him and like a launch of a car or a watch in the pages, and I couldn't believe that he was chatting me up. And the other reason that I think I got into this was because I was craving some excitement, right? I was 25, 26, I'd been in London for like 5 years, and I wanted all these like romantic trysts and sordid affairs and whirlwind romances, and so far all I'd done was date a lot of men called Rob from Clapham, right? The birthplace of bottomless brunch and marrying someone you hate. Like, it's just not for me, right? And some of the guys were okay. But some of them weren't bad. I dated a guy who worked for the Green Party for a year, right? Yeah. Who would only have sex with the lights on. The irony. And he always insisted on wearing a single-use plastic as well, do you know what I mean? Sorry. Stick to the brand, right? And some of them were absolutely fine. Some of them I look back on with mixed feelings, okay? I had a boyfriend called Juan, and Juan did something for me on Valentine's Day when we were together that no guy has ever done for me before or since, right? On the day of love itself, Juan got deported. Absolutely true. You couldn't write it. I mean, you could, but it would be weird if you did. And the thing is, some of you were right to feel a bit weird when I said that, right? But that did happen. However, that is only half the story, okay? Because my boyfriend did get sent away on Valentine's Day back to El Salvador. But I had wanted to break up with him. For some time. But I'm British. I'm very bad at confrontation. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to leave this up to fate. Or an increasingly fascist government to decide whether or not we're going to stay together. And then one day, Juan came back in from having the call, and he said, well, I can't believe it. They've not renewed my visa. I've got to go in 6 weeks' time. And I was like, oh, no! Who do you think made the anonymous call? Some of you very tense. Don't worry, I didn't call immigration on my boyfriend, right? I used a fake email address, right? It's much more inconspicuous. That's the thing. And then, as a rebound fling from Juan, I dated an Australian guy called Matt, right? And after 6 weeks of us dating, he said that his visa had run out and he had to go back to Australia. But then I just saw him in London 3 months later. I was like, you can't just use the previous guy's excuse, all right? For a brief moment there, I was Nigel Farage's dream woman, Literally just fucking foreigners out of the country, So essentially, I was craving something exciting, something wrong. And it's a weird sort of facet of human existence that sometimes we merge those two things, okay? We think that something wrong is something exciting. And like I say, I thought the age gap was really cool. For one thing, this sports presenter lived in Zone 1 of London. I know! I thought that was just car dealerships and Pretz now, okay? Right, I couldn't believe it. And I also knew that he was in a different phase of life and that he had his shit together. Because when I went round to his flat, he didn't have his bike in the hallway. What the fuck? I've hit the jackpot, okay? I thought, this is amazing. But then certain things started to crop up that made the age gap a little bit awkward. One time I was round at his flat and he put a pizza in the oven, not me, I should clarify. And after about 12 minutes, he turned to me and he said, "Does that smell ready to you?" I said, yeah, why? Why are you asking me? And he said, "Oh, I don't have a sense of smell." And I said, age 25, "Oh my God, is that because you're so old?" He was 42. He said, "No, it's not because I'm so old. I've got a condition called anosmia. It means I don't have a sense of smell. I've had it since birth." And I said, "Oh, right, so it's like one of those Victorian childhood diseases that we can cure now, but back in your day, you know, it was a struggle." Another time that really emphasised the age gap, I was round there again, and his wife worked abroad a lot, by the way. She wasn't just there, I should stress. And it was like a Sunday night, and I was round at his house, and he said, "Do you fancy a glass of wine?" And I said, "Well, I do actually, but it's raining, it's horrible outside, I can't be bothered schlepping to the shop. No, thanks, I'm all right, don't worry about it." And he said, "Yeah, don't worry, I've just got wine in the house." "What?" Yeah, I've just got just some wine in. I said, "What, just like, it's just there? You haven't bought it for immediate consumption? What, just like surplus wine?" And he said, "Yeah, what do you want, red or white?" I was like, "Red or white?" All right, James Bond. So I said, "Oh, I'll have a glass of red, please," because I thought that sounded sophisticated, right? He brought me over this wine. It was the nicest thing I had ever tasted, right? And I was like, this isn't the cheapest wine from the nearest shop. This is good stuff. This has got grapes in it and everything, right? And then sort of the final nail in the coffin, I mean, this was 10 years ago, he's probably in one by now, but like, the final sort of nail in the coffin, right? We were having this talk about losing our virginities. And I think it's quite an intimate talk, isn't it, with someone that you're, you know, in a sexual relationship with now, or having a mediocre affair with a Z-list sports presenter, you know, either one. Because you're talking about a time when you were sexually vulnerable to someone that you're now being sexual with, right? And he had quite a good story. His was nice. He was very fond of it. He was getting all nostalgic. And then he said, "Oh, God, yeah, 1988, what a great year." I was like, "Yes, it was, because that was the year I was born, okay." So I thought, maybe this isn't going to last, but I kept doing it. And one of the other reasons that I think I stayed in it for so long was that I am from the complete opposite of Zone 1 of London, no bike in the hallway, nice wine, right? I'm from a tiny little town in the Midlands called Corby. Does anyone know it? Yeah. Usually I ask the audience how they know Corby, but there's a huge Corby contingent in tonight. My two favourite ever answers from audiences when I've said, "Does anyone know Corby?" is number one, a guy said, "Yep, I was supposed to play a football match there last year, but there was a burnt-out car on the pitch." So and my favourite ever answer, I was doing a gig, I said, "Does anyone know Corby?" This guy really enthusiastically put his hand up at the back, and I was like, "Oh my God, are you from there, mate?" And he said, "No, but my best friend in jail was." I was like, briefly made me homesick, right? Thing is, in this country, we say that our national sport is football. It's not, okay? Our national sport in this country is being proud of being from a shit town, okay? We all absolutely love it. We're there in the closing time of bars, arguing with other people being like, no. My shit hometown is worse than your shit hometown, and I will tell you why. And then you'll reel off a list of facts about why that is the case. And that is exactly what I am gonna do now, right? Now, we all know the rules of the game as well. I can slag it off because I'm from there. But if you do it, I will fight you after the show. And we all know that's how it works, right? The thing is, even though people say bad things about Corby, we have won quite a few awards over the years, right? In 2016, Corby won the most depressing place to live in the UK. In 2017, we won Debt Capital of the UK. Yeah, I imagine that was all of us buying stuff we couldn't afford to cheer ourselves the fuck up from the year before, right? For a long, long time when I was growing up there, we had the highest rate of teen pregnancy in the country. Yeah, but then in 2019 we lost out to Hull, so I know, yeah, we'll get it back, don't worry. My friend's kids back home are really putting in a shift, so fingers crossed. But my favourite fact, my absolute favourite fact about my hometown is that until 2009, Corby was the largest town in Europe without a train station. Pretty jazzy. Then, in 2009, we got the aforementioned train station, and it had, thank you, it had one train a day to London. Nothing coming back. This is absolutely true. There was no return journey. That's how much we wanted to get the fuck out of there, right? Even the money-growing bastards at Private Rail were like, and what time should we put the return on? Can I stop you there? No need. On the way back, the train just stopped at Kettering, and then it was just like, every man for himself, go for it, right? That was it. It's quite a weird place to grow up because everybody in Corby is Scottish. It's called Little Scotland, right? And that's because there was a massive recruitment drive from the steelworks and there was mass unemployment in Scotland. And so everybody moved down, and it's a town in the Midlands of England with a very Scottish culture, right? My dad is Scottish, my mum is English, which in Corby makes me mixed race. So it's quite exotic. It's quite difficult growing up with a Scottish dad when you yourself are English, because he knows that he should love you. But instinctively, he wants to fight you. Do you know what I mean? That's very much the energy that I have grown up with. And I'm so jealous of every other nationality, okay? Because it's never really been cool to be English, but at the moment it's deeply uncool. And I'm jealous of my dad even, because as a Scottish guy, he gets to be a nationalist. And it's cool. Even if you don't agree with them politically, you can at least see where they're coming from. They want to be independent of Westminster. They want to govern themselves. It's a noble political position to be in, to be a Scottish nationalist. But if you're an English nationalist, you're a nonce at a rally, aren't you? Like, you're shagging a statue, you've got supervised access to your kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not as horny, you know? And by the way, I'm so glad that we're filming this in Hackney and you guys laughed at that, because I tried that joke out last night in Gravesend in Kent. And it did not get the same reaction. I didn't realise you could actually hear bulldog tattoos until I did that bit. Police escort to the station, never returned, thank you, goodbye. Now the thing is, my dad managed to get over his absolute, visceral hatred of me and actually be a very encouraging, very supportive dad who was constantly screaming at me to get out of my hometown. It's a weird working class paradox, isn't it? That we're constantly like, be proud of where you're from, get out. Be proud of where you're from, but get out, right? All the time. Shout about your roots, but never come back, right? All the time. That's the paradox we're always taught as a working class person, right? And so my dad was really, really supportive and wonderful and told me I could be whatever I wanted to be. But my Aunt Susan, my dad's sister, took the Scottish-English hatred to the next level, okay? She hates the English so much that when my mum started to go into labour with me, my Aunt Susan tried to persuade her to drive up to Scotland and over the border in labour so that I would be born in Scotland, so that I would be Scottish. When my mum, I think quite reasonably, declined this offer, my Aunt Susan has treated me ever since like I made that decision in the womb, okay? She absolutely hates me. Anytime she can get a little snip at me, she's there, all right? So it's really nice that I've kind of grown up with like a fight or flight response within my own family, okay? But I took my dad's advice, right? I tried so hard at school. I was an absolute nerd. I was unbearable. I did everything extracurricular that you could probably do. I did 4 dance classes a week. My favourite film was Billy Elliot. Of course it was. It was about a working class guy that gets into the Royal Ballet and moves down to London, and I was like, I'm going to make it as a dancer, okay? I'm Billy Elliot. I went to athletics training, I was county sprint champion, I excelled in all my subjects, not science, I'm not a psychopath, but like, I was a complete dork, okay? English was my favourite subject at school, all right? And cast your minds back to your English teachers. Some of the nicest people you will ever meet. It felt like they did like a line of enthusiasm every morning, didn't it? Before they came into school. They would say to me, Alex, you're too keen, okay? Just back off, okay? I would write things in my essays that would try and impress them that I thought were extremely poignant and had loads of gravitas. I would always try and do like a callback at the end of the essay. I once wrote that William Blake, the poet, was a freedom fighter for all of us. What? And my last line of any essay would be something like, and at the end of the day, when we really think about it, aren't we all William Shakespeare? No, we are not, okay? So I tried to do everything by the rules. I tried to do everything right. I loved the rules. I was absolutely shagging the rules. And for a long time, that was the only thing I was shagging. I couldn't lose my virginity in the teenage pregnancy capital of the country. But eventually, I did. And I even lost my virginity in the correct way. You know, vaginally. That's the only time that's ever got a laugh. No, what I mean by that is I got a boyfriend and he was a virgin as well. And he was the same age as me and we were respectful. Tick, 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 right? Did everything that you were supposed to do. My boyfriend's name was Dominic, and he was in my year at school, and Dominic pursued me. That is key to remember for the next 3 minutes of this story, okay? Now, we were going out for a couple of months, and for Christmas, Dominic bought me tickets to go and see Billy Elliot, the musical, in London, and stay at a 5-star hotel in Kensington. He was 17. He had a job on the trolleys at Morrison's. Where was he getting this cash? To be honest, I think I was just mostly annoyed because it made the CD that I bought him look extra shit. It's like, you've really trumped me there, okay? But the thing is, I just couldn't believe it. I was so excited because I knew that a hotel stay meant that I was going to lose my virginity. And Think back to when you were a teenager. That was your biggest fear, wasn't it? That you were going to die a virgin. You'd be there like, oh my God, it's going to be me. I'm going to be the one out of the friendship group. I'm going to be the statistic, okay? They're going to laugh at me when I get to heaven. You know, the club. And then you look back and you're like, yeah, you were in year 9. Of course you didn't have any love interests. Okay, it's all going to be okay. Now the thing is, because me and Dominic were 17-year-old virgins, we weren't mature, we didn't have a chat about it, we didn't say, are you ready, am I ready? We didn't do that at all. We just communicated in a series of winks and nods, right? Like, so when we go down to London, that kind of thing. Very, very childish. I did, however, tell absolutely everybody else. Everybody at school, people at athletics, people at dance class, my friends' parents, right? Pets, okay? Anybody that would listen, I would try and shoehorn it into any conversation possible. I'd be there in the lunch queue at school being like, oh, what have you got next? Double maths. Guess what? I'm having sex on the 27th of January. Can you believe it, right? So excited. My other top tip to you would be don't tell everybody you're going to lose your virginity before you've lost your virginity when you're at school. But eventually, the day rolled round. And we went down to London on the train, the one a day, right? And we went to watch Billy Elliot, and it was amazing. And then we came out, and again, without any chat, we just sort of awkwardly went into one of those kiosks and silently bought a 3-pack of condoms. Which, can I just say, 3 packs of condoms, so expensive, you may as well just have the fucking kid, all right? Like, the CPT on those things is insane, you know, cost per thrust, like, especially for a virginity loss. So we bought them, we got the tube to Kensington, and we walked into this hotel. We looked ludicrous. We looked like we'd won a competition to be there, okay? 2 17-year-old virgins from the Midlands awkwardly walking in. But we went in, we checked in, we went up to the room, and we had sex. Yeah. Didn't even hurt. Legend. Oh, so proud of myself. Just as an aside, I'm speaking to mostly women in the room. Do you remember reading those magazines like Ms. and Sugar and Cosmo if you're hard, right? And they had articles in them that was like, how to break in your own hymen so that sex doesn't hurt as much when you lose your virginity. I mean, how much money did they think teenagers had for horse riding lessons? Like, also, even weirder when now you think back and realise it was a bunch of adults in a magazine office being like, shit, we've got half a page free here. Steve, we need another hymen article, stat. Well, I know you did one last week, Steve. Just pick a sport. Just get it in there, all right? So strange. I even got on top on my first ever time having sex, which is a bit like doing your driving test on the motorway. In that, sure, you can show off about it afterwards, but at the time, you've got no fucking idea what you're doing, okay? The thing is, I didn't care about any of that. I had a really unhealthy attitude. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, yes, I've lost my virginity. I immediately became more smug. I shedded my nerd status right there and then, okay? Now, me and Dominic, the next day we woke up, we got the train back to Kettering, obviously. Our parents picked us up separately and drove us home. And I was just there being like, I can't believe it. I had left Corby on the Saturday a girl, and I had returned on the Sunday a girl who had briefly had shit sex once. Just had this new air about me. I went home, I was sat there on the Sunday night watching Antiques Roadshow, eating my toasty toppers. Looking around at my whole family like, fucking virgins. Mum and Dad are virgins. My little sister, virgin. Even the cat, I was like, I know you're a virgin, Colin. I've watched them cut it off. R.I.P. Colin. So I was the new me, okay? I felt amazing. I went into school on the Monday with all the confidence of the child of a famous actor, okay? Swaggered in. I didn't pay attention in the first 2 lessons. I didn't need to. I didn't have a hymen anymore. I don't need A-levels, right? It's a whole new world for me. And then it gets to 11 a.m. We've got form time. I'm there with my friends. I'm just about to tell the amazing story of how I'm a top shagger. When Dominic comes over to me and he says, really nervously, Alex, can I just have a quick word with you outside? I'll be honest, I briefly panicked and thought he was going to tell me he was pregnant, right? I'm not ready to be a dad. But I was like, yeah, okay, fine. So we went out, we went for a walk around the block at school, and Dominic dumped me. At school, the day after I lost my virginity to him, in front of everybody. And do you know what his excuse was? He said that I was shit in bed. I know! How bad do you have to be the only person someone has slept with? The only time someone has slept with anyone? And still be bad in bed? Is that even scientifically possible? That's like saying you came last at a wank. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I dealt with it extremely maturely. I burst into tears and I ran to go and find my best friend, Catherine. Now, Catherine was going to lose her virginity the week after me. Okay, I was very much the first guy up over the top of the trenches. She was going the week after, all right? Now, this was back in the day when sending one text cost, I think, £18.50. So I had just texted her on the Sunday saying, deed is done, see you tomorrow morning. On my Virgin Alcatel, which was like this big. So the last thing Catherine has heard from me is that text message. And then the next thing she sees is me running towards her at school in tears. And I can't help but think she must have looked at me and gone, fuck, I knew I should have invested more in horse riding lessons. It must be way worse than we thought. But she consoled me, she was really nice, all my friends were great, everybody rallied round, but I was humiliated for the rest of the school year. Everybody knew that I'd lost my virginity and been dumped the next day because I told them. But the point is, I couldn't wait to get out of there. I couldn't wait to go to university and leave and do something completely different and have nobody know that that happened to me. And by the way, just for the purposes of this show, I decided to look up Dominic now and find out what he's doing. Now, at first, I thought that was going to be fruitless because he doesn't have social media. Red flag. I briefly hoped that he was in jail, but apparently not. But now I found out that Dominic sells NFTs and lives on a boat, a houseboat. So it's interesting that after that whole story, he now identifies as a virgin, which is nice. You know, good for him. And I think that story might somehow explain why 8 years later I decided to just do the wrong thing, because I'd done everything by the book, I'd done everything that you were supposed to do, and I'd still had it thrown back in my face. So there I am at 25 into this affair that's now 6, 7, 8 months long, and I'm thinking, I have to cut this off, right? I have to do something about this because I'm starting to have feelings from a bit. I realised I wasn't dating anybody else. And I thought, no, this has to end. I'm going to cut it off. And that is exactly what I should have done. What happened instead is that I realised I was pregnant, okay? Nobody panic. Don't worry, this is all going to be resolved. It all ends well. What I will say is that if you don't laugh in the next 3 minutes, you hate women, okay? So it's just... Bear that in mind, okay? Now, I don't want to make any men in the room jealous, but I think the reason that I realised something was up was just women's intuition, okay? Just being really in tune with our bodies, women's intuition. You know, like I'd had unprotected sex and my period was late. Like women's intuition. The thing is, I wasn't really that bothered, okay? Because I'd taken the morning after pill. So I thought, that can sometimes mess with your cycle, that's probably what it is, but I'll take a pregnancy test just in case, just to be safe. And because I wasn't that bothered, I thought I'll pick it up on the way to going to meet my friends for dinner. And me and my friends still do this once a month. We meet up at a bistro, we all have a lovely time, we have great food, we catch up, we get pissed, and it's an amazing time. You might know the bistro, it's called Toby Carvery. If you don't know what Toby Carvery is, it's $7.99 unlimited roast dinners. That should be nationalised, shouldn't it? Okay, an incredible place. So, I'm walking down the road and I nip into Tesco and I go to get some pregnancy tests, obviously own brand, okay? £25 for clear blue. For that amount of money, I want the name of the father to flash up on the test. So I got £4 for two, and I got the tube, and I got to Toby Carvery, and I thought, you know what, just to put my mind at ease, I'm going to take them now, right? So I went into the toilet, took the first one, immediately came up positive. I thought, that could be a false positive, don't panic. Took the next one, positive. And I loudly screamed, fuck. And it is a testament to that establishment that nobody batted an eyelid, right? That's what you're supposed to do in a Toby Carvery bathroom, right? So I came out to my friends, I told them what happened, we were all in shock, we were like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And everybody is different. I'm not judging anybody for what they do at any point of their life, but I was 25, I was having an affair with this married, sort of famous guy, I was living with like 18 other people in London. I was right at the start of my career, I thought, it's not right, I can't do this at the moment. So we tried to find out how I would go about not having this baby. And you would think that if you Googled this, quite an important thing, that it would come up at the top of Google in bold. You know, like when you Google a celebrity's age, right? It's there instantly, you don't have to sift through all the stuff. This wasn't what happened at all. I got sent all around the houses. I got told I had to go to a private clinic. I got told A&E. I got told I had to have a referral. It was more complex than trying to print something, if you can believe, right? And eventually this woman was really helpful and she said, what you need is a referral from your GP receptionist. And I was like, oh. Great. The final bosses of unhelpfulness. So I waited a day, because obviously these things always happen on a Sunday, so that you have a full 24 hours of panic. First thing Monday morning, I called up my GP receptionist. I said, hi, I'm pregnant and I need not to be. That's what I actually said. And she said, okay, Miss Haddow, I understand what you're saying. I'm just looking at your records here, and your doctor is actually on annual leave for the next 3 weeks. So do you want to wait till she gets back? Or do you want me to pop you on the emergency list? And I was like, oh yeah, famously these things aren't time sensitive, are they? Do you know what, actually, January's looking pretty clear for me. Why don't we do it then? Of course, I want to be put on the emergency list. And she was like, all right, fine. So she did that. I went to the hospital. I had some tests done. And they said, don't worry, you're really, really early in the pregnancy. And I was like, oh, first time I've ever been early for anything. And they said, because you're at this stage, all you need to do is take these 2 pills. I said, okay. And they said, but you can't take them here, in the hospital, surrounded by qualified medical staff. You have to take them at home with 2 witnesses, their words, in case anything goes wrong. And I said, well, thank you, I feel reassured. So I called up 2 of the Toby Carvery Massive. And I said, bit of a weird one, do you want to come round and watch me not have a baby? And they said, yep, absolutely fine, we've never seen that before, we'll be right there. So they did that. They came round, I took the 2 pills, and it was fine. absolutely fine. Suspiciously fine. I thought, finally I found something I'm good at, you know? But I rang the clinic, they said, no, don't worry. As long as something is happening, you're okay. It's different for everybody. I said, okay. Wow. Well, there we go. And then a few days later, after I'd been through this all on my own, I met up with the sports presenter and we had a drink. And he told me at that drink that him and his wife were getting divorced. And he said that it hadn't been working for a long time, no shit, and that he'd broken up with her and he was moved into a new place. And I thought, oh my God, maybe me going through this has made him realize that he's got feelings for me. Maybe we're actually going to be together. Maybe we're going to be a real couple. And if you're thinking that that's what happened, that is not what happened. That was the last time I ever saw the sports presenter. He was really weird and shifty with me afterwards, and I just really awkward and kind of ignoring my texts and stuff. And then 6 weeks later at the magazine I was working at, I was doing the party pages and they asked me to put in a photo of him with his new girlfriend. And she was even younger than me, right? And she was a model. And look, I don't want to say that she was posh. But when I had to caption the photo, her surname went along and down the side of the page. And I thought, I can't believe this. I'm humiliated again. I did everything right back in the day. I did everything wrong now. And still, I've ended up in the same position. And ever since then, for a long time, I'd always dated the wrong men. Okay, and I think it's an issue to do with class, in that I don't have any. No, what I mean is I grew up where I did. I was the first person in my family to go to university, and now ostensibly I live quite a middle-class life. You know, like I live in East London, I work in the arts, I've got a nose ring. I'm a twat, basically. Okay? Like, I've got a middle-class brain now. My brain wants to date, like, the straight Stephen Fry. Ooh. Right? I want to travel the world, I want to read every book, go to every play, I want to experience things I never thought I would get the chance to experience growing up where I did. So I've got a middle-class brain, but I've still got a working-class vagina, okay? They're not matching up, and she's making the calls, okay? My brain wants to date the straight Stephen Fry, but my vagina wants to fuck a roofer called Gary. With absolutely zero political awareness, who thinks that Just Stop Oil are a band, right? They're just not matching up. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm sort of lefty and I'm liberal, and I work in the arts for no money, but I like a bit of rough. I'm woke, broke, and I want to be choked. That's the kind of perfect summarising of it, okay? But for a long time, I was dating the wrong guys until recently I got a new boyfriend. Yeah. Very exciting, and it's going well, so I don't want to look directly at him, you know, in case I ruin it. And he looks amazing without his top on, my new boyfriend. By which I mean he's circumcised, so it's very neat. And he's a bit of a geezer, right? My new boyfriend. He's from North London. Okay, so he grew up in a totally different environment to me, and I love hearing about the stories of his friends, okay? I love hearing about the nicknames of his pals. Danny Onions. 90s Mike. And my favourite, Nice One Tony. Who are these men? Okay. Criminals, mostly, but still, I love hearing about them. I should stress, by the way, that my boyfriend himself isn't a criminal. But he is a musician / DJ, so his only crime is being sort of like a walking red flag. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, please. But what I love about dating, what I love about dating in 2024 is that nobody feels like if you're a guy, you have to be hyper masculine all the time. Nobody feels like if you're a woman, you have to be hyper feminine all the time. You can take a little from column A, a little from column B. Be who you actually are. That's exactly the way it should be. So even though my new boyfriend's a bit of a lad, a bit of a man's man, he is also bang in into his horoscopes. Oh my God. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. It's like listening to Danny Dyer telling you to charge your crystals by the moon. And I said to him the other day, I was like, how was your night out last night, babe? And he went, yeah, I went down the Crown. Had a couple of pints. I said, oh yeah, was it good? He said, yeah, I bumped into Mickey the Key. I was like, oh my God. Mickey the Key? Who the fuck is that? He said, a geezer I go up with on the Holloway Road. He steals cars for a living. I was like, he steals cars for a living? He said, yeah, and he's fucking good at it as well. Of course he is, typical Virgo. I was like, what? Who are you, right? So look, after that happened to me 10 years ago, here I am 10 years later, and I still don't think that I want kids, but there is a new little baby in my family. My little sister just had a baby. Yeah. She's not a virgin anymore. Yeah, I'm a first-time auntie. Already got my figure back, so I'm thrilled. And my little niece, right, she's absolutely amazing. She's cute and chubby and gorgeous and wonderful. But when my sister announced in front of the whole family that she was expecting, she did it at this huge family reunion. Everyone was down from Scotland, big party, right? And we were so excited because it was the first baby of that generation in the family. On hearing the news, my mum and dad ran out to get some booze, you know, the natural choice for a newly pregnant woman, fine. And my little sister nipped upstairs to go to the loo. And while they were out the room, I knew this was going to happen because my Aunt Susan sat in the corner. She pointed at me in front of everybody and she went, oh dear. And I said, what? And she said, are you not a bit sad? And I said, no, why? And she said, your younger sister's the first one of you to get pregnant. And I was like, she's just the first one keeping it, mate. Like, what am I like? So what I thought I would do to finish the night off is that I would read you guys my very own celebrity notes app apology. To say sorry for all the bad shit I've just talked about. But from the magic of TV, I'll just go like this. So I just want to say, hey guys, thanks for coming with me on this journey. As much as I am truly sorry for everything I've done, I was thinking back on my 20s when I was writing this show, and I was taking a lot of antihistamine, okay? So I can't really be blamed. I'd like to say sorry to my dad, who was so unrelentlessly supportive that I couldn't help but wonder what it might be like to throw it all away on some absolute wrong-uns. I'd like to say a thank you, actually, to Dominic, who, after describing me as shit in bed, has spurred me on all these years later to become a hot 6 out of 10 in the sack. So it's not all bad. Also, at the start of this show, I said that I wrote it for 2 reasons. Number 1 was that nobody ever said sorry anymore. The second reason was that about 6 months ago, through friends of friends, I found out that the sports presenter's wife had absolutely no idea about his meanderings. They didn't have an open relationship at all, and she had no clue what was going on behind her back. She found a woman's purse in their flat, and she kicked him out all those years ago. She divorced him. She met a new guy now. She lives in France. She's got 2 kids. Great. That's a nice ending to the story for her. And also, crucially, it wasn't my purse. Thank God. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to say at the end of this show is that we all make mistakes. We all fuck up. We all have. We all will. And we should say sorry. But at the end of the day, when we really think about it, aren't we all sometimes my Aunt Susan? An unapologetic bitch. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I've been Alexandra Haddow. Cheers, good night.